when someone tells me that they don't have kids, I automatically think it's because you can't afford them, because who can? Why would you bring someone in this world and you can't afford to pay for them? Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thank you for stopping by. And if you're someone that's returning, thank you for coming back. You'll have to excuse my voice. I have kind of an itchy throat today for some reason. Don't really know why. But today, as you can tell by the title of the video, we're going to talk about the birth rates in the US, and really not just the US. We're going to talk about like on a global scale, because I think what's happening in the US is applicable everywhere. And I'm going to put up on the screen right now, right here, a screenshot of something I saw on Facebook, which is what prompted this whole video. I had no intention of making this video. I made a totally separate one about the First Amendment and speeches and stuff like that because of what happened with Charlie Kirk. But then as soon as I stop filming, this comes up on my Facebook. And I'm not going to read it to you in its entirety, but what it basically says, if you want to read it, you can pause the video. But what it says is that birth rates are declining, and basically nobody knows why, which is BS. We all know why. We're going to go over why today. So I found some videos on TikTok, and we're going to take them in a time and look at them, see what everyone was saying. But first, we are going to start with the job market.
Now I'm recruiting for 3 different positions, one of them being a junior software engineer. That talent pool is so saturated. Within 48 hours of us posting that one job, we received over 700 job applications, and we had to take it down from our career site. Right now we're only hiring for 1 junior level role, so it doesn't make sense for us to continue considering new applications. And this way our small and mighty team has the opportunity to go through those job applications. So when we have that many job applications but only 1 position, the reality is that we have to be very selective with who we talk to, because it's just not sustainable to talk to that many people, because there are other priorities that we have to take care of. We do have to hire for other roles. We do have other projects that we have to work on. And to be quite transparent with you, like if I had to talk to 700 people for 1 role, I don't know, like I would totally do it because I want to help people, but I think I would also jump off a cliff. And for the record, this isn't me complaining about what I have to deal with. This isn't to discourage anyone that's in the job market. This video is more to shine a light on what happens behind the scenes, just so people are aware, and hopefully it brings a bit more ease about, you know, why they're being rejected or maybe not being responded back to. Our team personally had gone through these job applications. We have maybe under 200 left to go, but this took more than a couple of weeks to get through.
So he tells you that for one job, he got 700 applications. And software engineer is a junior position, so that tells me it's probably entry level or close to that. I'm not in tech. My background is education, and I'm in finance. But for there to be 700 applications for 1 position, and that's just 1 job that's posted. That doesn't count all the other ones that are posted. Very rarely does a company only have 1 job posted throughout the entire company. We have that much competition for a job that's entry level. I would find it very hard to believe that all 700 of those applications are specifically entry-level people. I don't believe it. Finding a job right now is really hard. If you know anything about kids, you need money to raise kids. So why are we having kids if we can't afford to raise them? That's been the biggest propaganda so far when it comes in relation to kids, right? With restricting access to WIC and EBT benefits, what it covers in the store, and all these other hoops that people have jumped through to qualify for them. Now, I'm not saying that these measures shouldn't be put in. I don't know enough about WIC to really make an opinion about that. I've never been on food stamps. I've never had to. I've never had to worry about that. I've been fortunate enough about that like my entire life. But if you don't have money to feed your kids, you don't have money to provide for them, you can't really have them. Now, can you? You should, right? Isn't that like the one thing everyone's been telling everyone? Well, why are you having kids? You can't afford them. Well, if I can't get a job and I can't afford them, I'm not going to have kids. So I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. I don't know why this is even a question about why people are having kids. But that's only one part of it. You need a job to make money and provide for kids. But let's say, like, even if you do have a job, what does that cover? I'll tell you one thing it doesn't cover. That's childcare.
When somebody tells you they can't afford to have children, this is what they're talking about. A woman in my town's Facebook group shared these daycare rates today, and she said, how do you afford kids here? Because nobody knows how anybody is paying for this. For an infant for 5 days a week with 10 hours of care, it is $664 a week. That is just shy of $35,000 a year for 1 child. And the price does not drop that much when they hit pre-K here. It's $521 a week, which is about like $28,000 a year, okay? These are incredibly high rates for daycare. And of course, you could drop down to 9 hours a day or whatever it might be. But here's the thing. When you go to daycare, typically you're going to take the most hours because you have to commute to work, you have to commute back from work, and you have to work 8 hours a day. And unfortunately, when you miss pickup by 1 minute, they start charging you like $2 a minute. So usually it's more cost effective just to pay the higher rate for the 10 hours than to pay for the 9 hours, which is like crazy because it's 1 hour difference.
Now, again, background over 10 years in education. My background, though, I do want to preface this with saying my background is in middle school and high school. It's not in grades 6 and below. It's 7 and up. But that being said, if you want to know why daycares charge you the minute that you are late, there is a reason for that. I have gotten that question a lot from parents, like, why do daycares do this? And I'm not a daycare worker, but I do know the reason why. It's because parents do not pick their kids up on time. And the staff at that daycare, they have lives they have to get back to. They have their own kids they had to go pick up. They have their own family they had to cater to. They got to get home and let the dog out. And there are some daycares that are contracted, like I was as a teacher. Like when I was a teacher, my contract said 7.25 hours is how much I worked. That was the hours. And it said that because the school district, all the schools started at different times, but every teacher had to work 7.25 hours. So let's say that my school started, like one school district that I worked at, it started at 7:00 was when I had to be there. And then the kids left at 1:45, and then I could leave at 2:30, 2:15 or 2:30, something like that. If any second I stayed after 2:30, according to my contract, I was not getting paid. So if I stayed after for like 10 minutes, 15, 20, I'm staying after, I'm not getting paid, and the district is not going to pay me. I am a contracted worker. This is it. So if you stay, that's on you. And there are daycares that have that policy with their employees that you are not getting paid beyond this hour. I don't care if you're still here. I'm not paying you. And that's very common in education and daycare, by the way. It is, at least up here, it's very common. I can't speak for other places. When you're late, you are making the employee that works at that daycare late. They got other stuff to do. Now, I'm also saying this too as a parent, where I can understand why that would be frustrating on a parent's perspective, because you can't help if your boss decided, hey, I want to come talk. I know you leave at 4:30, but let's have a 20-minute conversation. I'll see you at your desk at 4:29. Like some places do that. And that's so disrespectful and annoying. But some places do that. Mine doesn't. But I've heard that from so many parents that I can't help it. My boss won't let me leave. My boss will start talking to me. My boss this, my boss that. But that's really not the fault of the daycare. That's how the daycare thinks. A daycare is a business. That's how they think. So they're going to nickel or dime you by the minute because too many parents are coming late to pick up their kid. And unfortunately, if you're one of those parents where like your kid goes to that daycare for 100 days, and of those 100 days, 99 of them you were on time, but that one day you weren't, unfortunately, you're going to get caught in the crosshairs of that extra minute pickup, like being billed for it. Even though you've only done it once, usually people make an exception for it, but you're kind of paying the price for other parents not picking up their kid on time. There are people that chronically pick their kid up late. Chronically, they do this. So that's why they have that fee there.
These are rates for one kid. We were talking about one child. Imagine if a family has two kids. They're paying $50,000, $60,000 a year for childcare. That is unsustainable for most families. And yes, the cost goes down slightly as they get older. But what that doesn't account for, that rate sheet, is the annual increase. Every single September, daycare centers raise their tuitions because they have to. And typically that's anywhere between 5 to 20%. And most people are looking at 10% increase. So even though you have that savings when they hit pre-K, by the time your kid hits pre-K, it's been 4 or 5 years. That rate has gone up exponentially, okay? So when someone tells you they can't afford to have children, oftentimes it's because of the cost of childcare. I did not know, looking back 4 or 5 years ago when I first started having kids, that I would be paying this much money for daycare because the rates looked drastically different. If we had affordable childcare, it would not only benefit families and children, it would benefit the economy, it would benefit businesses, and it would benefit us as a greater society. The economy would be better for it. This is not just a parent problem, right? But like people constantly are looking at adults who are married or of, birthing years and saying, why aren't you having kids? And we're looking around saying, how could we possibly have kids when we can't even afford to buy a house?
Childcare is expensive, as she just pointed out, and they raised their rates every September. Kindergarten in most places is not all day. It's half day. If you don't have kids, I don't necessarily expect you to know that. But if you recall back to when you went to school, most likely your kindergarten was a half day unless you went to a private school. Now, my kindergarten was a half day. So I have 2 kids. One is 2 and the other isn't even a year old yet. So that means that if I had these 2 kids go to daycare, and I don't, I'm fortunate enough to have my mom watch them. She watches them for free. Thank God for that. She's saving me a lot of money with that. I wouldn't be able to really work full time because until they were 6 or 7, because that's the age that you go to first grade. So my youngest child would have to be in first grade. He's not even a year old yet. So at minimum, I would have to wait 6 years for him to be in first grade before I was able to work and get a full-time job. And how am I going to get a full-time job if I have a 6-7 year work gap on my resume? We just saw the other video that an entry-level position is getting 700 applications. Why would an employer give me a chance when they have someone that's probably has like 10 or 15 years in the business applying for this job? The answer is that they're not going to. That's the answer you're looking for. So this, like, again, we're saying how it's set up for if you have kids, the system is set up for you not to succeed. It's set up that way. And that's just looking at daycare and just looking at getting a job. This doesn't even factor in day-to-day life expenses. So we're going to take a look at that now too.
Listen to me. I will never be able to afford a house. I will never be able to afford a house.
Home prices are rising nationwide as inflation remains stubborn and mortgage rates remain high as Americans compete for fewer available homes. Home prices in March were up 0.4% compared to February. Now that's the second month in a row that we have seen gains.
My parents' house that is $195,000 back in '96 is now worth like $500,000 to $700,000. My children will never be able to have the life I live because I can't afford to do it.
I don't think any of us thought when we were growing up that owning a home would be a luxury. Like maybe we thought it would be a bit difficult, but not like a luxury that basically only the rich will be able to afford.
No one that works a full-time job should be facing homelessness. And that's what my family is facing right now.
Being completely radicalized by the rental housing market right now. I cannot believe that you can pay over $300 in non-refundable fees just to apply for an apartment.
A big part of the reason why social life here in America is getting more and more difficult has to do with the fact that nobody can afford decent housing.
Everybody in America kind of knows, like, it's over. Like, there will be no recovery. Like, this is not like the other times. This ain't like 2008 where, oh, we'll crash and then we'll get back up.
Because right now, this economy, this world is set up to make average American families fail.
And I'm appalled that our particular kind of capitalism not only fails to deal with the housing problem, but somehow routinizes it so that the homelessness is blamed on the homeless, blaming the victim kind of, because I can see why a society does it, because if you're such a failure at providing this basic human need, you better blame somebody, because otherwise you risk blaming yourself.
And this is where it all comes full circle. We've already looked at how we can't get jobs in the first place. And then even if you do get one, if you have a child, the cost of it gets eaten up just in childcare. And then finally, before you even get to that stuff of childcare, you have to have some place to live with your child, right? Well, how can you do that? You can't afford a house or rent. I would show you my old rent because actually I will. I'm not going to tell you where I used to live, but I'm going to show you the rent here. Now, the rent where I used to live with my husband, this was before we got married. We lived together at 2 different places. This is the most recent one. My mortgage is less than the rent here. And my mortgage, by the way, I'm including my whole mortgage payment, like escrow and tax, like all that stuff, is less than this apartment now. And they've done nothing to it. They painted the outside of it, but like that complex, I've driven past it a couple of times, but they have not done anything on the inside as far as I know. And the price is going up. When people are telling you that they can't afford a house, they really mean it. Like, owning a house really is a luxury. To give you some perspective, there was someone in that video, this young lady, who said that her parents' house now worth like $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 now. I can relate. My house is quite literally half the square footage of my parents' house. I'm sitting in my parents' house right now. It is half the square footage. I live 5 minutes away from my parents, and we pay, like, our house was $250,000 when we bought it in 2021. Now, I was very fortunate in 2021 when I bought my house. I didn't have to go through the bidding wars. We literally got our first bid accepted, so I can't really speak on that. But my parents' house, and I am sitting in right now, that is twice the square footage. When they built this house, it was 220. It was $220,000 in 2000. The value of this house has more than doubled. More than doubled. I spent more on my house down the street in the same city. I spent more money on it. It's older. It's half the size. And my parents had this brand new house in 2000 that cost them $30,000 less to build. That's crazy. My kids are not like, I want to give my kids the same life that my parents gave us. I was very fortunate. I grew up in a 2-parent household. I have no step siblings. I have no half siblings. My 2 siblings are my only 2 siblings, all biological. We are all related to each other. Both my parents were well employed. They have a very great retirement account. They helped us out a lot financially, getting set up. So when people talk about the generational wealth having like a leg up over other people, they are not wrong. That is absolutely the thing. I absolutely have benefited from that. And if it wasn't for my parents working as hard as they did back in the 90s and 80s, even like before I was born, and the 2000 meticulously planning, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And the thing is, there are people my age who want to do that. They want to do that for their kids, and they can't because the system is set up so that you cannot do it. How are you supposed to be able to do that? And you can't even get an entry-level job because the entry-level job requires you to have 3 to 5 years of experience. But they'll take a degree, right? I found out that a master's degree, which I have 2 of them, one in finance, one in education, they count for 3 to 5 years experience. First of all, in education, they do not count for 3 to 5 years of experience. They don't. Education does not care about that. But in finance, business and stuff, yeah, that counts for 3 to 5 years of experience. So when I go to LinkedIn and I see these jobs that I qualify for just for my MBA, and the entry-level job is 3 to 5 years experience, that's what a master's degree gets you. So I fear for anybody who doesn't even at least have that. 3 to 5 years is entry level. That's crazy. That's not entry level. That's mid. I can't. And then not only is it entry level, but then they're going to pay you entry level wage. And that's insane to me. Like, me taking the job I have now makes sense because I left education. So if you're switching career fields, yeah, that makes sense why you might be making less. But there are people that are staying in their career field that maybe started in business and are staying in business, started in engineering, staying in engineering, started in tech and are staying in tech. And they're vying for these entry-level jobs. So when I see posts like I saw on Facebook today asking, why are the birth rates going down, or stating that the birth rates are going down and that there's a fear of population decrease, and like, well, you can't tell people to have kids and then give them no way to provide for them, and then be mad when if they have them anyway. Say, well, why do you have kids? You can't afford it. Like, stop with it. Look, it's really frustrating. I have 2 kids myself, and I have been asked so many times. I'm going to assume it's maybe more than my husband has, because I actually got asked on my wedding night when we're going to start trying for kids, which, what the heck? But I get asked all the time if I'm having a third. How can I afford to have a third? You can't. No, I am not having a third. I'm not having a third kid. Stop asking me that question. It's so annoying. So when I see people being child-free or childless, which, by the way, those are not the same thing. Childless means that you want a child, but you don't have one for whatever reason. Infertility, finance, whatever. Child-free means you don't want any. Regardless, when someone tells me that they don't have kids, I automatically think it's because you can't afford them, because who can? Why would you bring someone in this world and you can't afford to pay for them? And this study, look, and the thing with this too is that I haven't even talked about the medical issues that women are facing with all of these abortion laws, outlawing abortion. I haven't even talked about that. That didn't even factor in women's health care, or the lack thereof, if we're being quite honest. Like, there really isn't even there. But like, I haven't even gotten to that. That's a whole separate video that I could do on why women are not having kids, because, and I'll leave it at this because this video is already kind of long and I'm not going to talk about it that much. But another reason that a lot of people are not having kids, women mainly, is because there are laws that are not protecting the lives of women. They're prioritizing the lives of babies over women. And I'm not saying that the life of a baby shouldn't be important. It is. Like when I was pregnant with both my kids, my top priority was, are my kids okay? I want to make sure my babies are okay. That was my top priority. So I'm not saying that is a bad thing to want your kids to be safe, but there are laws that are in play right now that have cost some women their lives, where you have to actively be dying before a doctor can intervene and save you. And by the time you are actively dying, there's a lesser chance that you're going to survive. It's crazy. So now you have women who don't want to have kids because they want to live. and that, like, that's a whole separate topic on why people are not having kids. I've only touched on the financial side. So when I see posts like this on Facebook talking about the population and how it's a concern, well, it's not that big of a concern because no one wants to hire anybody. When they do hire you, they don't pay you enough. And they don't want to give you the pay for what you're qualified to do. And whatever pay they do give you, quite honestly, even if they start you out at $70,000, $80,000, when you have kids, it gets eaten up by childcare, it gets eaten up by bills and expenses. You can't even afford a house. Like, what? Stop asking people why they don't have kids. We know the reason why people are not having kids. Stop playing with me. We all know. So now that it's out there in the open, your question has been answered. Stop asking about it. And demand some action of your politicians that you are electing in the office to do something about this economy and jobs. I'm tired of seeing the job reports out there that jobs are growing. They're not. Anyone who's looking for a job, you know that's not true. I don't care what the news says. I don't care if it's MSNBC. I don't care if it's Fox. I don't care who's saying it. It's just not true. There are not enough jobs being posted, and the ones that are being posted are not enough to pay for day-to-day bills. But I would like to hear what you guys think. Why do you think people are not having kids? I told you why I think they are not. And do you think any of these are good reasons to not have any? And what do you think that can be done in order to encourage the population increase? What do you think can be done to encourage the economy to do better? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.